In this video, we're going to make a start on installing and building the rear drum brake assemblies, and also maybe fitting parts of the handbrake quadrants. So currently the rear subframe is upside down, and the first thing I need to install are the brake cable quadrants. So they kind of just sit here. That's the shape of them. The bit with the very sharp angle points towards where the wheel hub is. So that will sort of go there. There are a few different methods to install these. Sometimes you might just have a bolt that goes through with a nut on the other side. I've got these pins, clevis pins, so we'll use those if they'll actually fit. Yeah, they're the right size. So that'll go in, and then on the other side it just uses a washer and a split pin just to hold them in to stop them pulling out. Alright, so right now I've just flipped over the subframe. In the previous video I mentioned these extra reinforcing panels. So I believe these are an additional thing that are installed on Mokes, but there might be some minis that actually have that modification as well. I'm just not too sure. So what I need to do first is sort out these handbrake quadrants. So the way that this gets installed, the pointy end goes towards the wheel hub. So it actually sits that way underneath. So not here underneath, but that's the position it goes in. Obviously when I stick it through, it's not going to stay. I need to get a washer and a split pin to go into that hole there. So I'll go and grab that first. And of course, it does not fit. So we may need to just go for a nut and a bolt. Alright, so I took a look at the Mini just to see what I actually did on there. And it does actually use 5/16 inch bolts. So that is what I'm going to put on here. Okay, so we're going to make a start on assembling the left hand side rear brake assembly. This one I found it cheaper just to purchase all the pieces separately, but these are actually second hand and they've been sandblasted, powder coated. I don't mind the powder coating, but the issue is that like bits of it scratch off, and then I don't think it's as good as paint, but I notice a lot of people in the UK love their powder coating, but painting seems to still be the best option here for Australia, but everyone has their different opinion on that. First thing I want to do is get the brake cylinder installed. This kit that I've actually got doesn't come with the gasket. I notice a lot of them don't seem to. Whether or not, because it's not there to stop anything leaking, it's just an additional cost, I guess, that they don't want to, the manufacturers don't want to pay for, I guess, or to save money. So one thing that you can do this now or later, just turn those just so they're in the right spot. So normally a gasket would go on here and then that would get inserted into there, but this one doesn't come with one. Don't worry about that for now. So that just sits in there like that. And then on the other side, that's where you need to get this annoying circlip on there to hold it in place. There's also a bit of a debate about which way that goes. Like you can see that there's a curve in it, so I would put the curve, put it this way, so then you've got all this outside edge pushing down on the actual plate to keep it in place. Okay, so once you've got it to that stage, you can then get it to go down and then tap in. You're going to probably still need to wedge it to get it to go down. There we go. All right, that's in where it needs to be and it's nice and tight. Okay, so now that that cylinder is in place, we need to sort out this top section now. So that actually is where the adjuster goes. So that's the brake adjuster. That piece is what sticks out the back. Turn that to adjust the spacing. I've noticed that these adjustment wedges, actually in my just spare parts, I've got two different sizes. So I'm going to try using the larger ones. I don't know why there would be a difference between the two, but I'm assuming that as long as both sides are the same, it shouldn't be an issue. But this is something that is very easy to change later on. So if it doesn't turn out, we can use a different size. So I don't want to use normal grease on there. I'm going to use some copper grease, but copper's pretty expensive, so we're just going to go for aluminium grease. So on this actual screw, you just want to put some, I just don't have any copper grease at the moment. I'm just going to put some aluminium grease on there. Doesn't need a huge amount. And then this has to go in from this side. So initially it needs to go all the way in, because then that way the wedges will fit. So that's probably far enough. I'll just give these wedges a bit of a clean off before I put them in. But this whole assembly I'll wash down with brake cleaner once it actually gets installed. The thing with that aluminium anti-seize lubricant, it just makes a mess. But all right. Okay, so I'll put some of that lubricant on these pieces too, just on that part there, and then of course on the sides. The way those go in, obviously the sloping part goes towards the pin in the middle, like that. And then, so that side is what sticks up. Okay, I'm just adjusting them ready for the actual pads. Alright, so next step, I might actually just get this rubber. Alright, this rubber boot goes on the back side here. That's where the mechanism for the handbrake goes through. I always find these, they don't sit on properly. They just pull themselves off. It's like a very loose fit on there. It's not nice and tight. Okay. So these do come in pairs, but I have already assembled the other side. So, so the positioning of that, you want to make sure the little indentation is that way. That piece goes there because that pushes out on the brakes. I believe they're both identical. I don't know whether the rivet goes through the top on the other side. I just can't remember what I did. But that clearly doesn't go that way. It goes this way, yeah. So the rivet should be on top. So that's the inside view. So when that's on the car, that's the position it would be in. The cylinder's down the bottom. So I'll slide that piece in now. Because it will help hold the pads sort of in place. I will need to have a play around with this boot at the back of it because it will probably want to pull itself through, and I just need to put a bit of wood underneath just so I can keep it level, because of course that handbrake connection does move around. And okay. All right, so the next thing I need to do now is figure out which direction these go. So these are all identical. So they're all identical, and for both sides too. So you'll notice that the edge of there's a leading edge over here. That's got to go based on the wheel rotation. So the direction of the rotation of the drum should be this way, if that one goes there. So that would be sort of sitting there, and then the bit which is exposed goes that way there. So that's sort of the position that they would sit in. I might have to lift these out again when I put the springs on, but just to sort of see how things go. Just without the springs, you'll be able to see how it all fits in. So that would be how it sort of sits in. Alright, so I'll try and give you a bit of a better view. Alright, so springs are the next bit. The other lubricant I've got is, let me just grab it. It's made by Bendix, I do believe. So this is what you'd normally put on brake parts, any moving parts. It's a synthetic lubricant specifically designed for brakes. So I'll be putting that on any parts where there's moving parts, but I can do that after the springs have been put in. So 2 different types of springs for the rear brakes. The one which has got the spring part in the middle, so that one there, that'll go up the top end, and it's sort of centrally located, so it is symmetrical, so the spring doesn't hang lower, but I'll explain that on the next one. So the holes that they need to go into are that little one there, and also the circle here, but it's going to be easier when this has to get stretched. It's easier to get the hook into the long hole than the circle, so put it into the circle hole first, and then I've got to get it over to here. But if I can unhook that and just get it in there, and then I'll undo that end just so I'm not stretching too much. And then just slot that back over where it needs to go. Okay, so that is the top spring in where it needs to go. All right, last one is just this bottom spring. Common mistake is that people install it this way, and then this part of the spring touches on the actual wheel hub as it rotates. So the reason why it's at an angle like that, it's because it needs to go down there, so that bar, it sort of goes right on the handbrake lever, sort of in that position there. So again, it's probably easier to get the hook into the circle hole first. Right, like that. And then that end has to get hooked into the slit just there. And again, it might be easier just to unhook all of that, get the spring in first. And this is a lot easier to do without the hub in the way. Because if you are changing this, you can just slide off the hub. Just be careful you don't get any dirt into the grease of the bearings. That's if you need more room to do it. I just can't find the bottom of the spring. Okay, so the spring's clipped in. I just need to get the handbrake lever back into position, and then the edge of the brake pad needs to go into the cylinder here. Okay, now I just need to get this side in. Okay. Alright, that seems all like everything's in the right position, so pulling the handbrake, you can sort of see it spreads them apart. So anywhere where parts move, that's where I'm putting this grease in. So let me just double check. So this is for the left-hand side, so the normal rotation is anti-clockwise. You've got the leading edge at the top here, and then down here too. Okay, so let's get this bolted on. One thing I want to point out, I've noticed that there's some people, and even on my Mini, the bolts have been put in this way, so the nut goes on that side. But then I have seen it being done this way as well, so the bolt goes through that way, then the nut is on the inside. That way I guess the nut is sort of more protected from the elements, but I'll do it this way and have the nut on the inside just to see if there's any difference really. But I just need to get this cable tie out of the way. Okay. Alright, so that slides into position there. One very important thing, it needs a bracket on the other side for the handbrake lever, but the very top one doesn't, the bracket doesn't go near there, so I'm just going to get that bolt in there to hold it, and then put the spring washer and a nut on this side. I'll just do this hand tight, and then I have to run and get that bracket for the handbrake. Oh, it's a bit difficult to get this camera view in a good spot, but so here's that bracket which supports the handbrake cable. So the two holes on here go to the end hole on there, and then of course the one which is underneath there, which you cannot see right now. So the bolt I'm going to put through this way, goes through there. I'll just put that underneath, put that through to there. That's not in the right spot, but I'll just get this loosely on. So put the spring washer on this side, and then the nut. I'll show you the view of the inside of here when I'm done, just so you can sort of see how far the actual thread sticks through on this side. It's not going to interfere with the hub. There's plenty of space in there for that to manoeuvre still. And then, of course, the final bolt goes into that hole. I'm just doing this blindly because I can't see, but I can feel where it needs to go. But the holes are all lined up now. So that third bolt goes in, and then a spring washer and a nut on the inside. Alright, so I'll tighten them up and then show you the inside. Okay, so the inside view there, the bottom one and the one on the end here, because there's a bracket on the other side to take up a bit of space, it doesn't stick through much more at all. But the one at the top does a little bit. I mean, you could get away with that if you wanted to put a washer on the other side. That will stop it sticking through as much, but the hub won't go anywhere near that anyway. Okay, so that's that bit all done.